Hi, everybody. My name is Joel. I'm the host of the FADI-Life podcast. FADI-Life podcast is presented to you by Fostering a Dynamic Impact, a company that has motivational speakers and life coaches and corporate trainers and teaches people how to deal with change. Fostering a Dynamic Impact is also known as the Change Management Company. And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about how change has a purpose, and then that purpose has reason, and that reason's here to teach and help us grow. I'm going to talk to you about the seminar that's coming up in January, on January 19th, called the Change Mastery Luncheon. I'm going to talk to you about how a bag of sand is going to change how you use your decision-making process. Okay, I'm not going to give you all the keys to the decision-making process today, but I'll give you a bit of an example of one of the exercises that we do in the seminars or in my life coaching sessions. We're going to talk about change and the stressors that change fosters, and we're going to talk about reframing the word change, and we're going to use it instead of describing all of the chaos that's going on in your life. I'm not here to tell you that the shit that's going on in your life is not a big deal. I'm not here to tell you that the health problems that you have aren't significant, and I'm not here to tell you that the financial problems or your organizational difficulties or your professional challenges are not real. I'm just here to tell you or try to illustrate to you how those things being disrupted right now are designed to teach, right? Because I don't know what your faith is. Obviously, I'm talking to you through a microphone and on a camera, but I would assume that your God is all good, all knowing, and all loving. And if you have an all good, all knowing, and all loving God, then he's certainly not going to make mistakes, right? It's not. These things aren't happening to you because your God had a bad day, right? My realization for all of that was a time when I was managing a trade school, and I had a couple hundred students, and I was in an 8-month period. I learned that I had cancer. I fought cancer. I'm here. I beat cancer. I graduated college. I found out I was going to be a dad. My son ended up needing a liver transplant to survive at 6 months old, and he was going to need to get that transplant in the same facility that just accidentally killed my grandmother, all in the same window, right, or the same short period of time. And I can see all of those things now as just huge change agents, right? And they're huge tests. Everyone has heard the concept or the talk or the phrase that God only puts on you what you can handle, right? There really are no accidents, right? God didn't stub his toe, and I went through all those things, right? So I'm not saying that there was no free will there, because I certainly had the will and the ability and the capacity to react to that stuff. And when you can reframe what we call it, right? You have job shit that's going on. You have somebody at work that's creating chaos. And then the ripple effect of that chaos or that change on you is real, right? You have stuff going on at work. It has a ripple effect throughout your entire life. You know, a lot of change creates a lot of stressors, real stressors. You know, you get high blood pressure, you get headaches, you get tension stuff. Our bodies aren't meant to be tense. The goal for high-level athletes is to be as supple and flexible as possible. The goal when MMA fighters get into a ring is to be relaxed. Our best us is when we're relaxed, when we're at peace, when you're in that zen. And that's the whole goal here, right? Because if you can identify the reason that there's change, that all of these things are happening, right, to you. That they're there to help you change, and that change is there for a purpose, and that purpose has a reason. And if something has a reason, and we live in a world where there are no accidents, then it's typically there to help us grow. Because if there's anything that's inevitable about our life, it's that we grow. Some of us grow faster than others. Some of us grow more physically than others. Some of us grow more spiritual than others. Some of us increase their capacity for education differently. I'm not saying what that is. You can sit on the couch your whole life. You are still going to have change. And if you don't do shit sitting on the couch, you still have an impact. That's your impact. But you have a choice to get up off the couch and do something. You should. You were given gifts to do something. And the change that's going on in your life is likely to get you closer to where that purpose is. I'm not here to tell you what the purpose of somebody passing away in your life is or what this big catastrophe is, but I can tell you that throughout history, the greatest suffering is typically followed by the greatest peace. And if you take that from, let's say, natural disasters and put it on a micro level where you lose a job now, or you have job chaos now, that's usually pushing you to a place where you're going to get something better. Most of you are adults, I would imagine, listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube video. If you have been through any kind of shit, it typically leads you to something better later. The heart breaks. And if they haven't, right, if you haven't learned the lesson, they typically get harder. Keep choosing the wrong person to date, the wound becomes greater. Keep looking for the wrong job, you never find that satisfaction. Never find that satisfaction, you never find your purpose. At Fostering a Dynamic Impact, in my seminars, we guide people to live a purpose-driven life. That's what we teach you, is if you can find your purpose, then you'll always have your drive. It might not be at your work, right? You can have a job that might have a lot of suck in it. But on the flip side of that, if you're doing something extracurricular, whether it's an exercise, whether it's mixed martial arts, whether it's volunteering for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, whether it's volunteering for the Red Cross, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, anything, but something greater than you, something that's having an impact on other people's lives. Because if you can, you should. We have a responsibility for it, no? To help. I don't know what religion you can find where it says not to help people, or what kind of approach to life that you want where you're not helping people. It doesn't seem very satisfying to me. There was a time in my life where I didn't help people, where I was kind of on the other side of this. I was a bit of a dick. And I can promise you that the helping people part of your personality is really the more satisfying, and it's the more rewarding, right? Because you live in a universe where you put out what you get back. If you want to take it from a religious perspective, do unto others. Then you have to do that because it gives you your peace. Because it's going to bring you the things that you want. At this point in your life, you should understand that being a dick doesn't really get you the things you want in life. Or maybe the approach you're using to get the things that you want in your life is forcing you to become someone who's a bit of a, just not a real nice person. It doesn't mean you have to give up what you want, if that's what you think is going to make you happy. It just means you need to reframe the approach in it. At the luncheon, January 19th, the Change Mastery Luncheon, we're going to discuss that in detail because you have the power to influence that process. Your decision-making process is where all these things come from. This window we see the world from is where we make the decisions to interact and influence people around us. Because if you don't think that when you're in a bad mood, even though you're not saying shit, that you're giving off a vibe that people around you don't notice, you're mistaken. Because whether they know they notice or not, they are influenced by your energy. If you don't believe me, think about a guy that's super pissed off, just gets off the phone fighting with his wife, and walks into a classroom full of people. And everybody just looks at him, but he's pissed off, walking down the hall, walking into the room, sits down, huffing and puffing. It's going to change the vibe in the classroom. I probably don't have to explain that to you. The point is that you have control over how the vibe you put out, right? And the clearer your brain is, the easier it is to put out a better vibe. Nobody really wants to walk around angry, even though there's some savage in all of us that likes to be a little angry, right? It comes out, it's good. It can be a motivating agent sometimes. I'm not saying that anger is not part of our lives, right? It is a natural emotion. But when you're getting angry at the things that are happening to you in your life, that anger is typically a sign that your life is under distress, right? That you might not be right where you're supposed to be. And when you get that feeling, when you realize where you're at right then, that's when you have to start changing how you think. So earlier, I was talking about this bag of sand. For those of you in the YouTube video, you can see this sand. Obviously, those in the microphone and the podcast, you cannot. What I use the sand for is an example of how you have the ability to change the way your thought process and your decision-making process operates, right? So we are conditioned typically throughout the day. We're conditioned, absolutely, really, not typically, throughout the day to have a natural bias, a natural unconscious, subconscious bias to saying no. And we do that throughout the day. For instance, you get on the highway, every billboard you see, your subconscious has to say no. Imagine how many times you say that, right? No, I don't want to change lanes. No, I'm not going to stop. No, I'm not going to speed. No, I'm not hungry. No, I can't get any food. No, I didn't get enough sleep. Even if you sprinkle a couple yeses in there. Yes, I made that green light. There's still micro decisions. The point is that there's a lot of decisions that go through to get you to where you're at. And even though it might suck, even though you might going through a significant amount of change, you still have to stop, grab hold of that decision-making process, stop looking at things through that no window and see what's up. And if you have your purpose, if you found your purpose, plug, if you come to FADI to help find your purpose, then when things are chaotic for you, your purpose acts as an anchor. Your purpose acts as a safe harbor for you to get to a place where you can almost find your zen. For some of you, it might be working out. It can't be just working out in a way, though, that becomes consuming. It has to be working out. You need to set goals. You need to manage those micro decisions. When are you going to get up? When are you going to go to sleep? What are you going to prepare in the morning? What are you going to do for food? How are you going to get to work? Are you going to do what you can to be the best you today? Are you going to go to sleep with full intentions of getting rest? Because if you don't manage the change properly, if you miss the purpose, miss the reason, and find yourself not growing, you're going to stagnate. And there isn't a living creature in the world that does well when it's not moving. Growth is movement. Stressors will break you. They create uncertainty, they create fear, and they do it in a way where, and these are like change stressors, right? And they create fear in a way that impacts your decision-making process, right? Throw a little fear into your confidence recipe, even when you're driving or trying to get to work or making just normal decisions. And changes your instinct. It changes your gut feeling. It doesn't really change what it is, but it clouds the way you see it and you feel it, because you can't be in tune with your gut if you're focused on all the bullshit around you. And if you're focused on the BS, then you miss the purpose in the change. I was fortunate enough, and I'm still continuing to be fortunate enough to learn the lessons of fighting and getting through cancer and my son's transplant and the timing of it all. I've been through significant loss in my life. I look for the purpose in it now. It doesn't mean that it sucks any less, but it makes the environment change to where now I can embrace the change, where now I'm not getting overwhelmed by the change. Excuse me. Because that's the point, right? All this shit's coming at you and it feels overwhelming. And when any of us are overwhelmed in whatever atmosphere, whatever, it's very, very difficult to make decisions. We start to lose our composure. One of the most impressive things I found with special ops guys in the military isn't so much their skill set, right? They practice a lot. You can get good at that. It's the mental capacity to become clear, to have clarity inside the chaos. I'm not expecting you to have special ops mentality, but you certainly have the ability to shut off the noise in your head. Uncertainty is going to make the noise in your head that, should I do this? Should I not do that? Am I going here? Should I not do that? Damn, I made another mistake. Oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, poor me. No, the change is happening to you to help teach you. And sometimes those lessons suck. It's as simple as that. It can be any kind of change. It doesn't have to be big change with health and your kid getting sick or you getting sick or suffering a loss, somebody passing away. It could be a job transfer. I have a friend of mine who just had a baby, just bought a house, moved an hour away from where he's working, and has decided that he's going to pick up an extra 3 hours of exercise every day. And he's lost 60 pounds. He's sick, and his wife is freaking out about it. But she's not just freaking out about him losing all the weight. He's not home. He's chosen to spend that time somewhere else, in his own head and in his own exercise. I'm not saying that he's doing anything bad. This obviously is a huge stressor for the relationship. But this is how he's dealing with change. And while she's highly frustrated with him, if she wants things to work out, because she's going through her own change too, his wife, right? Her job, the baby, the sitting at home. I want to see my husband. You know, we have our 5 languages of love, and time, connection, whatever it is. If you're not meeting it, things fall apart. And it's not because either one of them have become assholes. They just are both reacting to change differently. And discussing the concept of change with them and how it can impact people, you get a better understanding about why you're doing things. He likes to work out, so he's going to work out. It feels like an addiction for him. But then when he sees that it's about change, that it's because it's so much, I mean, it's a lot. It'll freaking rattle somebody, man. Especially somebody who's naturally resistant to change. All of us are, but he's really resistant. You lose your identity. Without an identity, you're not finding your purpose. And you need to learn how to find your purpose over and over and over again, because as you grow, as you evolve, as your spirituality, as you learn how to speak, as your spirituality increases, as you become more connected with what's around you, the people, the environment, your faith, it's all more change. 40s to 50s, 50s to 60s, all change. Break a leg, got to change. Want to train, got to change. Go through education, you got to change. It's a natural part of life, and it's one of the special things about growing. Is that change and growth are both the same thing. Life is that. Right? You have to stay on top of that purpose inside your relationships, inside your work. If you and your wife, if you and your husband, if you and your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever your relationship is, there has to be a common purpose, right? Your values have to be aligned. From an organizational perspective, you have to have a core values, right? But you have to have the same thing with your friends, with your boys, with your girls, whatever it is, your parents. There has to be something. At the very least, a common purpose gives something people can discuss. Because there's going to be times when you're frustrated with whoever you're in a relationship with, and that common purpose tends to bring you back to the table. Of course, change is wrapped up in purpose and reason and teaching and growth and learning and stressors and relationships. Come to the seminar, January 19th, 11 to 1. I'm going to buy you lunch. You're going to get, I promise you, with this seminar, you are not going to walk away disappointed, right? You'll see this bag of sand. You'll see how you'll have the control to change how you see the no's in the world, all those micro decisions. I use the sand to take you to a place mentally so we can bring you back to changing it. That was meant to be a little vague. But think. I'll give you an example, right? Have some beach sand. Think about the beach. The waves, the water. Could be in the clouds, could be a sunrise, could be a sunset. Anything you want, but you're on the beach. Think about what the sand feels like. If you're having a Corona, if you're smoking, whatever. With your wife, with your kids, by yourself, meditating, reading, listening to music, on the beach in your Zen moment. Nice day out, 74 degrees, sunny, nobody to bug you, waves crashing. What? What's he doing? What's he making these sounds for? What the hell's going on? That was weird. I was just at the beach and now I'm here. I don't know what. Yes, change management. We are the change management company. Man, what's he talking about now? Okay, now let's go back to the beach. So let's go back. You're sitting on the beach, maybe on a lounge chair, or maybe you're even by the pool, and the wind's across you, the wind's hitting your face, and it's just cool out, and you have your drinks and your food, and it's peaceful. The example of the beach and all that dumb noise that I made is an example of how you can be thinking about the beach. You can think about some dumb noise and whatever else you're cursing at me about. And then you can think back to the beach and the pool again. The point is that you can control your decision-making process. That inner child you have in your head, sometimes you got to tell it to shut the fuck up. Be quiet. Grow up. because that decision making, that thought process that you have in your head, that decision making process it's like a snowball effect, right? You get a little thought that becomes another thought, and you've got a whole scenario in your head. I know all of us have experienced that because all of us have been on a drive somewhere where we've got from point A to point B and be like, damn, what was I thinking? Well, I don't even remember that drive. Whether you're on a phone, whatever, brain just not even listening to music, anything. It happens because our subconscious, our inner child gets to a place where it's taken off. The exercise with the sand and the beach and the pool and the dumb noise is an exercise, right? It helps you condition that decision-making process you have. So it turns into this growth mindset model that allows you to make efficient choices that are aligned with your purpose. If you're not aligned with your purpose, you're typically having a hard time dealing with change. We are naturally resistant to change. There are physiological, there are psychological, there are social and corporate impacts from change. Those corporations that manage change effectively actually use change management as a competitive advantage. And it can be a strategic competitive advantage. Because if your company is effective at managing change, it's also quick and effective at embracing change agents that come in and disrupt. It helps the evolution process. It helps the growth process. And if any of you listening to this podcast work or own a business, then you understand that it's important to evolve. Your organization becomes stagnant. It usually gets swallowed up by competition. Corporations that don't manage change effectively have high turnover, decreased production, decreased morale, increased absenteeism, increased injuries, slip and falls. It's just smarter to be able to manage change more effectively. If you can manage change effectively in your personal life, it impacts your physiological and psychological arenas. Change coming into your life to disrupt you, as I mentioned before, the physiological impacts, muscle cramps, headaches. You think muscle cramps are a joke? You know your heart's cardiac tissue, it is muscle. That thing goes in spasm, they call it a heart attack. There are muscles in your neck that cause headaches in the front of your forehead. There are muscles in your back that cause pain in front of your chest, and muscles in your leg and your lower limb that cause you pain in your knees and hips. And you can't get away from the psychological impact, right? You're not going to sleep if change is disrupting your life. You got shit going on. And if you're not sleeping well, then you get a little depressed. You start getting some anxiety. Focus gets almost impossible. You become irritable. And this becomes the behavior around you, right? This becomes your vibe. And a really effective way to manage your vibe is to deal with change. I want to talk to you about something I'm doing soon. Actually, tomorrow, I'm having a guest on my podcast named Jose Flores. He's also known as Mr. Indispensable, and he is an author and motivational speaker, life coach, and corporate trainer. And I'll get into who he is and what he does when I'm speaking to him tomorrow, but I want to bring it up today because it's a great example of how things happen for a reason, right? So let's go back to a previous life of mine when I was running the trade school. One of the aspects of the school that I was running was a massage therapy school. And this was, I think, 2001. I was running the school for almost a decade, but I met this woman in class. She was one of my students. And there was really no significant interaction at the time, but she was one of my students. Fast forward 12 years, we had the cancer, we had the transplant, traveled the world. Married, divorced, married again, found a barber, kept a barber. The barber that I have happens to be a student also in the school that I was running. And I found it interesting, but it's a small world in that regard. So not really, whoa, but okay, cool. So this is Bobby the Barber, and in the cut in Coral Springs, and he's my guy. So over the course of a few years, there's this cat that kept coming in a wheelchair. He's got a neuromuscular disease where he's losing progressively his ability to walk and raise his arms. And he had a business that he was starting back then called Apps. It was a clothing company. And he had these shirts that said absolutely. But the soul part of it was raised. I bought a shirt, still have the shirt for my son today. Not a big deal about the shirt. It was cool. Of course, you support local entrepreneurs, local businessmen. Of course, he's in a wheelchair. You want to help him even more because he's inspiring and he's getting his grind on. And I realize over the course of the past few years that I want to make this motivational speaking gig the real deal. I want to spread this message of change management. I want to teach people how to find purpose and change, and I want to help people's lives, and I want to fucking impact you. That became my purpose. And with that becoming my purpose, talking to the barber about it because it's the barber shop and that's what you do. He says, man, you know my boy Jose. Yeah, of course I do. Oh, well, he's doing motivational speaking too. No shit. Now, all the while, I've seen him, I've got a message that I think is significant and everybody needs to hear it. Everyone should learn how to manage change more effectively. And they should hear about how I'm teaching it. So I want to talk to him and I want to get on his stage. And sure enough, I see him in the barbershop one day and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm a Les Brown protege. What? Les Brown. He is an inspiring motivational speaker and one that actually got me motivated to speak 25 years ago. We're on a road trip with my dad and saw Les Brown speak in an auditorium in, I don't remember where, in South Carolina. I don't remember the name of the stadium, with my dad. And like, seriously, man? This guy happens to live in my mom's building or lived in my mom's building. What are the chances of that? And the guy, Jose, inside the barbershop, we just happen to have the same barbers, also is a Les Brown protege, trying to motivate people. Oh, and by the way, that student that was in my massage school 12 years ago is Jose's mom. It's impossible to really absorb how comprehensive the decisions and how many choices were made to get us where we're at today. And tomorrow I'll be at his house interviewing him for my podcast. There are no accidents. And it's examples like that that help demonstrate. They reaffirm your faith that, yeah, man, things are on point. Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes ever, and one of his maybe greatest statements is, that's probably arguable, is that coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. I'm not here to tell you what the purpose or the reason is. I'm here to tell you that it's there to teach. I'm here to give you tools and resources to help you identify that, increase the quality of your life. I'm here to have an impact on you. I want to do that. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to my website, dynamicimpact.co. I'm just getting this thing off the ground. I'm looking for a huge platform. I have the message. I have the passion. I certainly have the purpose and the drive. And now it's time to work out the technical side. Figure out how to massage this platform in a way where I can help the greatest number of people possible. DynamicImpact.co. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you know what the channel is. You can subscribe to my podcast pretty much anywhere. Apple, Spotify, Google Cast, Android. Check it out. Listen, you want to talk about somebody that's had an impact on you? Do it. Call me, send me a message, email me, whatever. I'm happy to put you on. In the meantime, stay grateful. The reason this is called the FADI-Life podcast is because it's about fostering a dynamic impact. Hopefully, I'm fostering an impact in your life. Hopefully, that impact is dynamic. Hopefully, there's somebody having a dynamic impact on your life. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.